Now, now we talk about one of the Senate's important roles.
Yes, the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. And that is why no president has ever been convicted following impeachment. Um, it has almost always been a partisan issue. There is one impeachment of the president in U.S. history that was actually bipartisan, and they still couldn't get 2/3 of the Senate because I don't actually know. Cult of personality is my answer.
Yeah. So I made this joke last time with the Constitution episode, but the vice president can't breaker this vote because it's 66%, not 50%.
Yeah, yeah. And I believe that in this case, it's likely that if there were a tie, it would actually be the Chief Justice who would decide. But it's never come up, so.
Oh, I thought that he was just the presider, like a real judge. And
well, like I said, it's never actually come up.
Yeah.
And right now, you just need 67 people.
Yeah.
And 66 would be a failure because that's not a full 2/3, I guess. I don't know how they do it. It's not going to happen anytime soon. So,
You don't think the whole Red House and Red Senate might impeach the new Red President?
Well, I mean, even if the Red Senate, which is, the issue here, were to try to impeach, say, Kagan, because Supreme Court justices can also be impeached, they don't have the votes to get close to 2/3. Right now, it's so close to 50-50 that I'm kind of curious as to what you'd have to actually do to get the full Senate to impeach you.
But the Senate would be like a jury trial. They're the jury, yeah. and the Supreme Court's just a judge.
Yeah. It's the House of Representatives in the impeachment system is basically the grand jury. And then it goes to the Senate for the actual trial. There have been a couple of people removed from office by the Senate. Mostly, from what I can tell, if it looks like that's going to happen, people resign. There are a few who have fought it. I believe Aaron Burr was actually removed from office by impeachment. I'd have to look it up, but Aaron Burr was kind of a hot mess, really. And presumably it was a lot easier to get the full 2/3 when there were that many fewer senators.
See, was like I think by that time it was like what, 28, 30 maybe?
Yeah, 28 or 30 people. It's a lot easier to convince, 20 people than it is to convince nearly 70 people. I don't want to say that partisan politics wasn't as big a deal back in the early 1800s, because, boy, I could tell stories. But it's just, there were so many fewer people involved. And I think the politics, at least, were a lot less weird. There was no one in the U.S. government in, say, 1808 who believed that the dead son of a dead former president was going to return somehow. And you can't say that today. And that's depressing.
Yeah. I've heard saying we've always been bipartisan, but they said we haven't been this bipartisan since right before the Civil War.
partially because some of the big issues in the years since the Civil War weren't drawn on strict party lines. Segregation was a very weird issue because it fell in the years when the South was still Democratic, but the Dixiecrats were a different kind of Democrat than the Northern Democrats.
Yeah, they like I think 2 or 3 of the people running for president back then became the segregation party.
Yeah. George Wallace ran third party, as I recall. And you get, it's hard to imagine Strom Thurmond and Harry Truman or FDR as being in the same party. But for a while, yeah, that was actually what the Democratic Party looked like.
Hell, Roosevelt, the other Roosevelt, the Monopoly Buster was a Republican.
Yeah, Theodore Roosevelt was a big. Parties are not a permanent situation. What a party represents is going to change a lot over the years. And so you get, Theodore Roosevelt established the National Park Service. And to be fair, a lot of his conservation included, we must preserve this land so that I can keep hunting things. But he did also think that there were parts of the U.S. that were just too beautiful to turn over to the hands of developers. And good luck finding a Republican who believes that today.
First executive order, we're going to drill for oil in Yellowstone.
For real, though. Not that there's oil there, but there could be. You don't know. Yes, I do, because I know just enough geology to know it's not possible, but sure.
But yeah, even though no president has been kicked out, a lot of other people have been during impeachments.
Yeah. We focus on president because that's kind of how our system works these days. But
it's the big show thing.
But impeachment is not strictly for presidents. Impeachment is for the people of the government you can't just fire, basically.
People have been a bad boy. That they're like, we have to do this. All right. We'll see you in the next spot.
Mm-hmm.